from Alexandria, Virginia.
Yup, 202 down.
Yeah.
Virginia. Oh, Nina. Hi, I'm Naheen. I am a junior chemical engineering major. I'm an Excel scholar, and house is kind of my life now. So, yeah. So, what we want to talk to you guys about today is kind of our road so far. So, we've had a very long, complicated journey to get us from day one to current day. And something we want to stress before we start is that where we end this presentation isn't where our journey ends. It just brings us to today. So with that being said, we've created steps to help guide you through this process, or the road so far, as we like to call it. So without further ado, we would like to introduce you first and foremost to the story of our victim. It was September 2015. He had kept trying to make up with me, saying he wanted to be at least my friend again. That night, he didn't take no for an answer.
It was homecoming 2015. He was my friend. They were my friends. Yet, they took his side, and they silenced me.
It was homecoming 2016. I was out celebrating the night with my new sorority sisters. At the end, I ended up being locked in a room with him, all alone. So step 2, where do I even begin? After it had happened, everything kind of felt like a blur. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. It all felt like a blur. It kind of felt like someone was holding me down and drowning me in water, and I was too broken to struggle anymore. I kept trying to deny it. I kept trying to say it didn't happen, I could just move on. But just the memories kept flooding back over and over again. Memories of his touch, memories of the room. Everything made it so hard to forget. After so many weeks of convincing from my counselor and my best friend Claudia Rodriguez, I finally decided to try a group therapy. And mind you, in high school and college, I've never gone to a guidance counselor or anything like that. I've always been the type of person to keep it to yourself. So group therapy, I was just like, why not? What else is there to lose anymore? So on October 20th, 2016, I went to Bailey's 20 minutes early, and I sat in this room on the second floor, and I was just sitting there, freaking out. 10 minutes passed by, and then 4 other women had come in, including Sam and Nina. And Nina was running late, she ran in late. I remember that clearly. And I sat there. I felt like the new kid at school. You're like, oh, what do I say to these new people? Do they might think I'm weird or something like that? All of that changed literally immediately, because within the first 3 minutes, I was opening up to these women. Every memory I was trying to bat away in my mind, I was sharing with them. And my biggest fear, honestly, was having them look at me and go, oh, that poor thing. I feel sorry for her. I just didn't want to feel like someone was sorry for me. They didn't do that whatsoever. One by one, they started opening up about their own stories. And quite frankly, that was the start of the deepest friendships I had ever encountered in my entire life. They helped me realize that those little moments that made me flash back to that night were called triggers. That the loneliness and pain I felt in my heart was depression. And I needed to let go of this obsession that I have to be my old self again, that I have to get back to that point. They also helped me realize that I can deal with those triggers, that there's little joy, and there's so much joy in little things. And I don't have to be my old self. I can be a stronger me. I wasn't drowning anymore in the memory of my rape. I was instead breathing again, and I became a survivor because of the other survivors around me.
And so it was through this community of survivors that we had gathered through our own support group that I gained the courage to share my story with friends and family. And what I noticed is that the more I shared with others, the more was shared with me in return. And so people would come to me with their own horrifying stories of assault. They would reach out to me when they had sexual experiences that were uncomfortable. And they would ask for help when they had this thing happen to them, but they didn't know how to even quantify it, because not only did they lack the language, they lacked the understanding. And so the number of responses that I kind of got back from sharing my story became very overwhelming. And I stopped myself and I said, okay, maybe something else is going on here. And so I took a step back and I looked at Lafayette from this broader lens. And so I just observed for a little while. And what I noticed was that a lot of the alleged assailants came from positions of power. They were popular, they were well known, they had social influence, and they took advantage of their position to take advantage of others. What I noticed is the way that women, particularly on this campus, would talk about men on this campus. So for example, my friends would come back after a night out and they would say, Sam, I just had the best night. He asked if we could have sex. He asked midway through if it was still okay. As though checking in and making sure what was happening was consensual and simply not raping or not assaulting made them extraordinary. What I noticed is this degrading way we spoke about women, particularly on this campus, if they dared to wear a short skirt or a tight shirt, or if they had sex with more than one or two guys, as though they should feel ashamed, as though they should feel dirty. And so it was through these observations that I realized maybe what happened to me wasn't this overwhelming, abnormal experience at Lafayette. Maybe it was, in some way, a part of the normal Lafayette College experience, a part of the normal national college experience. And so I got very angry. I was pissed. Because being assaulted should never be something that's normal. I was pissed because, this emotional and mental anguish that you endure and continue to endure for a long time, that's not something that should ever be considered normal. I was pissed because at some level, everyone knew what was happening. So when people say, oh, you're going there, don't drink the punch. You're going here, bring your friend. Oh, so-and-so, they're aggressive. They know what happens if you drink the punch. They know what happens if you show up alone. And they know what happens when you interact with this aggressive individual. But they're not talking about the after. The only thing they give are these vague warnings. And so again, I was really angry for a long time because it was right there in front of our faces. But eventually I decided that this anger I was having wasn't productive. And that if no one else was going to talk about this, well, maybe I can. And so I was directed to Christina Yacino's office, and I showed up kind of guns blazing, saying, this is happening, we need to do something about it. And Christina looked at me and she said, okay, yeah, you're right. Let's go. What do you need from me to help you? And so with her help, I organized It's On Us Gets Personal. Now, It's On Us Gets Personal was in the fall of last year. And what I did was I collected anonymous and non-anonymous accounts of around a dozen survivors. And the message I wanted to get across was sexual assault isn't just this 1 in 4, 1 in 5 statistic. It's not just this vague concept that's far away. It happens here, and we need to accept the reality that it happens here so we can move forward. And so through this dialogue that we had with survivors, this kind of the silence began to be lifted at Lafayette. And then second semester, I went abroad. And Nina and Marie Flanagan decided, you know what, we can't stop. We need to keep going, because if we stop, this progress is going to be lost. And they organized It's On Us Takes a Stand. And now, It's On Us Takes a Stand wanted to go a step further. So the silence had been lifted, and they said, okay, now we're going to show people what to do about it. And so they gave people resources, and they gave this message of empowerment for survivors. And then the summer came.
So, when we started Pards Against Sexual Assault only 2.5 months ago, we decided that our goal would be to educate the community, but also we wanted to learn. We had been through these experiences, and we wanted to know how to share these connections we had been making from our journeys as survivors to members of the community. And, sorry. The beauty of our group is that we all were students, and so we understood the community. We were also diverse in our backgrounds, where we were from, the involvements we had on campus. And we all agreed that we wanted to shatter not only the silence that was imposed on survivors, but also this misconception that sexual violence is a women's issue. Because that's not true. It is for all of us. And so that was the mentality that went behind Pards Against Sexual Assault. And more specifically, that's the mentality that was behind Take Back the Night. So, the night of Take Back the Night was extremely emotional. I was excited, because after 3 months of a lot of planning, a lot of late nights, a lot of stress, it was finally here. But I was also very nervous, because I didn't know how people were going to receive this. But most of all, I was proud. I was so proud of the 150 people who registered to participate in the run and walk. I was proud of the 650 people who attended the speaking portion. I was proud of Christina Vicino, an administrator, who got on stage and exposed herself emotionally to these students, faculty members, coaches. I was proud of the men who answered Gordon's call to speak their opinion after his talk. But most of all, I was so proud to be a part, to be there to witness what would happen afterwards in the vigil that would happen after the talk. And I don't think any amount of planning could have prepared any of us for what happened. I was shocked by the amount of women, specifically, there were women, all were women who came up and told their stories, but I was shocked by all of them that got up there and said, I wasn't planning on speaking, and actually, this is the first time I've ever said this here at Lafayette, or this is the first time I've ever uttered these words out loud. And it took me back to this conversation I had with my father as I was standing at the top of the Colton stairs looking at the audience. And it was as though, and seeing the emotions that were radiating from each individual. And in this conversation, it was over fall break, and I said to my father, I don't know what I got myself into. I mean, I don't think I can handle this. That I wasn't prepared emotionally. I wasn't ready for the emotional weight that would come with PASA, Pards Against Sexual Assault. I wasn't ready to hear all my friends come to me and tell me their stories. some would tell me who. And so then I was in this box again, and it brought me back to freshman year, back to when I was a victim of not knowing what to do. And I told my dad this. I said, you know, I have a friend who goes to college in California who just reached out to me. So people that aren't even here are realizing that I'm a part of this. And he said to me, so, well, first of all, my father was in the United States Army for 25 years. Puerto Rican, grown and raised. And he has seen some things that are just horrible. But he never once made me think that anything I was going through was trivial. However, he did make sure to keep me, or make me see things in perspective. So I wrote down what he said next that really stuck with me, because I don't want to mess it up. But he said, Nina, what defines a person, when a person truly finds themselves, is when life beats you so hard into the ground that you don't think you can get up again, to finally gather up enough strength to get up for air, to only have life beat you harder and deeper into the ground. It's at that point you have to make a decision. Are you going to feel sorry for yourself? Are you going to stay down? Are you going to get off your ass? Are you going to look life in the eyes and say, bring it on? And use those experiences to help others who may not have the strength on their own to get to the end, or just to get through life, or just to fight. And so I go back to being on the stairs, looking out at all these people, seeing these emotions, friends and strangers, and I realized, you know, I wasn't okay with what happened to me still. And that was okay. And that actually this was amazing. That having people come out to me was an honor, a privilege. And that for me, that was my path. And this has been my path, has been to help people, for us. And we decided, and we've talked about this, that we wouldn't change what happened to us at all. If we could, I think, you know, it sounds probably pretty messed up, but I wouldn't go back and stop it, because if it hadn't happened, we wouldn't be here today talking to you guys. Pards Against Sexual Assault wouldn't be here for the survivors on this campus who maybe may look to us or just to our programs for strength. And Pards Against Sexual Assault wouldn't have happened. And so when we talk about ripple effects, there are so many ripple effects that go into sexual violence. The ripple effect one person can have on a victim, which is negative. But then the ripple effect one survivor going into group therapy can have to make another survivor realize, okay, my feelings are right. I can talk about this, and I'm gonna be okay. And I don't need to be that perfect person again. And I'm okay with leaving that person I was before, because I'm stronger and I'm better now. And that's really what we want to you guys to take away from this talk, is that for us, maybe this was why this happened to us, was so that we could stand before you today and talk about Pards Against Sexual Assault, that we could bring this group to this campus. But that doesn't mean that that's necessarily your path. Your path could be just to fight on your own, or with your friends, or be there for it as an ally, be there as a bystander to prevent something. And so we want everyone to be a part against sexual assault, because you never know the ripple effect you could cause.